So another topic I think in the movie that's interesting, and we're seeing this more and more in web on tech entrepreneurship, is that people don't necessarily need or pursue a full education. Zuckerberg's obviously kind of the famous Harvard dropout case. But what's kind of your thought about the role of education in web and tech entrepreneurship? If you're talented, do you just kind of jump right to the pros, as they say?
I don't know why you'd go to college. We have, I don't know, I think like a quarter of our team hasn't graduated school. I don't know. I got to check, actually. What's our ratio? Do you guys know? Yeah, we've got at least a few. But I think the more interesting thing is that we were actually just talking about this today. I think like we have a couple comp sci majors at Tumblr, but we have a Victorian art grad. Like I don't know, we've got everything. Working on everything. I think just interested people who aspire to understand the world better and are excited about what they're working on. Like, I'd like to go to school someday, maybe.
I mean, I was a journalism major, and I'm the technical founder. So, arguably, and my alma mater will hate me for this, but what I learned in college was like I made relationships, met people. I got older. I got internships, so I connected with people who are absolutely crucial to my life right now. And my parents asked me, "Well, what if you hadn't gone to college? If you'd moved straight to New York?" Hell if I know. I don't know, but I'm not even gonna speculate. But I think it depends on the person.
Baroque art history major. I don't know if I'm using it at all, but college was a valuable experience for me. I remember the day, my junior year, that my roommate at Georgetown told me to sign up for the Facebook, and I thought it was so voyeuristic. I thought it was so scary. But we found out that one of our professors had hacked on, and I thought that was very cool. And it was my very first, celeb awe-inspiring moment, looking at an entrepreneur and thinking, oh my God, he's my age. So at that point, it was too late for me to drop out of school. I guess I'm glad I didn't, but I don't think it's a necessity.
Just one thing I'll add is for young people who I talk to who are curious as to whether or not they should stay in school, whether or not they have a better shot at starting their own thing or going to work at a company, or want to come work for or with me. I think the biggest thing, regardless of or wherever you wind up, take every opportunity you can to hang out with adults. I think even in school, it's very easy to make it through the 4 years without really spending time in an office environment, spending time having real conversations with older people, and just kind of learning how to interact with adults. And I meet so many people out of college who just have very clearly not had to interact with people in an office before. And I don't know, one of the things that I most appreciate now is that I had a lot of opportunities, even as a teenager, to just hang out in offices, spend time with adults, even get to work on a few projects. That really, I don't know, goes a very, very long way. It's easy to spot the ones that did. Yeah.
Another thing from the movie that I thought was interesting, and I think a lot of us have probably been through a similar experience, is in the early days of Facebook, essentially, financing the site and the server development and everything like that on credit cards and personal loans and things like that. What's kind of been, especially David, you guys have grown to a pretty substantial size. What's been your experience in kind of scaling the site up and kind of dealing with those issues as you've grown?
The big one for me has just been letting go, because I come from a little bit of a technical background. I'm really totally fascinated, and I'm often consumed with the way we're scaling the site. I have no experience scaling a site to even where it is today, let alone where it's going to hopefully be in the next couple of years. It's been, and I mean, my understanding is, you look at CTO of Yahoo or co-founder of Yahoo is still CTO today and still very, very involved in every server purchase. You look at Mark Zuckerberg, who seems to still have a very, very deep connection to the scaling and product direction of Facebook. It's hard to let go sometimes, and you don't always have to, but I think very often, I mean, this is true of lots of parts of running a company. You really need to find people who have experience to bring to the table or skill to bring to the table that'll carry this thing much further than you can on your own.
And how has your role kind of evolved with Tumblr growing? What's kind of your day-to-day like now?
My role is supporting the team much more than it is actually doing anything at Tumblr, and even to the point where I've given up most of my product direction stuff. I've given up really all of our technical infrastructure, and it's actually, I mean, it's kind of sad. It's stuff that I love doing, and I'm just thrilled that now I get to have a hand in so many pieces of it that are all moving forward so quickly, because we have a team that's taking all of those pieces so much further than I certainly could on my own.
Mm-hmm. And how about you guys on the scalability issue?
We haven't had to deal with that yet. But I think one thing that's worth talking about, not necessarily now, but I think there's been a lot of conversation about technical talent in the city, and I think, you know, when you look at the scale that Tumblr or Facebook's at, like, you need different people with different technical skills at different points. I think oftentimes we talk about computer science people, and initially when you have an idea, you don't necessarily need a CS person. Again, to start Face Smash or whatever, it was literally a matter of, you know, you can sit down, and someone could probably do that in a week with, you know, after reading some tutorials. It's once you get to a scale and you start dealing with like scaling and information systems and all that stuff. I don't know. It's an interesting question because I think it depends on the business.
Soraya, any thoughts on that one?
I would say that we're pretty fortunate to have Ted Grubb in the back. I think it's important for most startups to have a technical lead in a prominent role in the company, if not a co-founder, because you need, I was just actually talking to Ted about this today, you need somebody with an eye to attract good talent and to serve as, you know, your recruiter to get the best developers on board. And I certainly don't have that background. I would never know how to determine if a Ruby on Rails developer or Python developer is up to par. So it's just crucial to get the right team together from the get-go.
Now, going back to Facebook for a minute, you kind of saw the history briefly in the movie of kind of how social networking's evolved from Friendster to MySpace to Facebook. It seems like power's kind of shifted every few years in terms of who's on top. What do you guys kind of see, though, as the current state of social networking? Is Facebook kind of going to stay as king? Do you see someone, you know, eventually unseating them? If you're an entrepreneur, would you be trying to build the next Facebook or just leveraging Facebook and doing something with like Facebook Connect?
My fascination with Facebook is really the on the product design end. I think there's some really, I mean, talk about like really good ideas. There's some, Facebook is brilliantly executed, but there are a few ideas in there that are really spectacular, from relationship status to the way photo tagging works. I think photo tagging is the reason Facebook has the active user base that it has. I'm very curious to see if more spectacular ideas like that really emerge from it. On the social networking landscape, the other thing that I'm kind of most enamored with these days is that all my favorite times on the web, which were spent back in the day, were spent in AOL chat rooms and instant messenger and email, back when that was the only means to really move images around the web. I just thought it was the most wonderful thing ever. And I like that I see a lot of the chat stuff reemerging in Twitter today, which is, if you look at how any young person uses Twitter, they basically use it as this big chat room with, you know, all of their friends in class. And I don't know, I like the thought that super connectedness that used to only happen when we were all at home at 4 o'clock after school is now starting to emerge through the entire school day, because all these kids have phones and Twitter. So kind of neat.
I guess I'm particularly interested in sort of the intersection of the online and offline social networks, particularly with what we see happening with the roles of Yelp and recommendation systems and stuff. And I think, you know, a lot of conversation in the last few years has been like talking to people's walls and stuff and communicating online. And I know, particularly as someone who spends a lot of time in front of a computer, I'm particularly interested in seeing how the location-aware stuff, and for as hyped up as it is, you know, there's something really cool in there, and I'm really excited to see how sort of the industry and the technology evolves.
Thanks for saying location, so now I don't have to. I'm going to say Tumblr, and it's not just because David's here on the panel with me, and I think he's a really nice guy, but, you know, not a lot of people know this, but Tumblr's a top 50 website on the internet right now. And if that's not a sign of it becoming the next Facebook, I don't know what is.
And I'll put a plug in there for Tumblr too. We actually have a MashableHQ.tumblr account where you can stay up to date on the latest happenings of our company. Yep. Awesome. So any kind of awesome stories you guys can share kind of from the founding of your startups? Maybe not something that's movie worthy, but kind of cool.
Oh, nothing like that. It certainly paints an interesting picture of a startup. I think it would have been a bit more, I don't know. Yeah, the stuff I like is a little bit of a look into what those early days were like at Facebook HQ, when Mark was like sitting in the middle of a room, as I believe he still does, surrounded by hackers who are just like, you know, buried in code. That's like, I don't know. It was neat they got to touch on that, but I don't know. That's the stuff that I think most of the Tumblr team were sitting in the corner kind of identifying with. I remember like our second week when we, you know, had this chunky looking like gross page up that was just automatically refreshing every 30 seconds to show us how many users had signed up for the site. This was probably the first time you guys had written about us or something. And you know, I mean, those moments are like incredible.
Yeah.
It really, like, yeah, I don't know. And One day, one of us is going to have a startup to that effect if we can, or excuse me, a movie to that effect if we can.
Soraya, any stories on your end?
I mean, it would be hysterical if somebody tried to make a movie portrayal of the food spotting story. Maybe there would be a lot of food fights. I don't know, but ultimately, we're not that dramatic. We genuinely like each other, and I think that part of why this story is so dramatic is because their story has become a legend, and that's what's the most impactful, right? It's only been 6 years, and already the Facebook history has become part of our history, and that's what I draw from this movie.
Awesome. All right. I think that's it for the evening. So thank you guys so much for coming.